Whoa. Oh my God, she's so hot.
What channel, dude?
The girl next door. I can see her through my window. God, who is this girl?
Be a man and go over there.
Oh my God.
Matt, what? Matt.
Shit.
I'm all wet. Can I come in?
This is Danielle.
Can I use your bathroom first?
Dude. I know. Dude. I know.
High school graduation is approaching, and seniors are gathering for photos, eager to celebrate their memories. However, this only depresses Matthew. He realizes that while everyone else was having fun, he was too busy studying. He wants to change this before he leaves, but he has a bigger problem. He got into his dream college, Georgetown, but he can't afford the tuition. To get a scholarship, he has to spend his final days of high school buried in books while everyone else is out partying. Later, the students gather at the basketball court for a pre-prom assembly. A popular jock hypes up the crowd with talk of the wild parties they have planned. However, the mood instantly dies when Matthew takes the microphone. As student council president, he gives a boring speech about raising money for a kid in Cambodia named Sam Nung. The students hate it, and when a video of the kid appears on the big screen, they begin making fun of the boy's appearance, eager to add him to the list of nerds they target. Desperate to change his reputation, Matthew tries to convince his two nerd friends to skip class and follow the popular kids to the beach. They refuse to break the rules, so Matthew decides to go alone. However, his anxiety gets the best of him. He sits in his car in the parking lot, watching the cool kids leave without him. Defeated, he starts the engine and drives home instead. When he arrives, he notices a car parked next door, signaling that new neighbors have moved in. Inside, his parents' friends congratulate him on Georgetown, but Matthew ignores the praise, explaining that everything depends on the scholarship. He needs to perfect his application speech, which is about morality. That night, as he practices the speech out loud, he takes out the kitchen trash. Suddenly, he spots his new neighbor, a stunning girl named Danielle. Matthew rushes to his room and calls his friend Eli to tell him he thinks he is in love. But Eli doesn't believe in love, as his world revolves around mature content, so he tries to talk Matthew into a casual fling with Danielle instead. While on the phone, Matthew looks out his window and sees Danielle changing her clothes. He stops and stares, but she catches him looking. Matthew ducks down. When he looks back up, he sees Danielle marching toward his front door, looking angry. Moments later, the doorbell rings. Matthew's parents answer and demand he come downstairs immediately. In the living room, he finds Danielle standing with his parents. Matthew thinks he's about to be exposed as a pervert. However, his parents introduce him to Danielle and explain she is house-sitting for her aunt. Since she is new to town, they force Matthew to take her for a drive to show her around. The two drive off in Danielle's car. They've only gone a short distance when she suddenly pulls over and asks if he liked what he saw earlier. Matthew tries to apologize, but Danielle demands he take off his clothes so they are even. As soon as he does, she steals his clothes and drives away, leaving him on the side of the road with only a plastic pool tube to cover himself. Moments later, Danielle returns and lets him back in. Instead of being angry, Matthew laughs. This crazy moment breaks the tension, and the two immediately spark a connection. By the time they reach town, they are both completely smitten. Danielle opens up, revealing she just quit her job to start over and might go to college. She notices Matthew is painfully shy and asks if he ever had fun in high school. Matthew admits he hasn't, and it's destroying him. Danielle offers a solution. She will be his wing girl. She promises to help him get a girlfriend and force him to do things he would never normally do. She slips him a drawing of herself, and Matthew agrees to the deal. They drive home, and Matthew says an awkward goodnight, his head spinning from the most unexpected night of his life. The next day, Matthew's friends are not happy. They feel the night with Danielle should have ended with at least a goodnight kiss, but Matthew gets a second chance. During a boring class, he spots Danielle waving from the parking lot. He knows leaving is trouble, but he grabs his bag and runs out to her car, unaware that his teacher has just announced a surprise test. Over the next few days, Matthew skips school constantly to be with her. They grow closer. However, Matthew still freezes every time he has a chance to make a move, so Danielle decides to force him out of his comfort zone. She leads him to a stranger's house and dares him to jump in the pool. It's only after they're both in the water that Matthew begins to panic, realizing that the house belongs to his school principal. Danielle manages to calm him down, and the two of them manage to slip away without being seen. With the adrenaline still pumping, they pick up Matthew's friends and crash a party thrown by rich kids. However, the school bully, Hunter, spots Danielle and decides he wants her for himself. With his friend's help, he separates the couple. Matthew is shown the door and asked to leave because the party's already full. Matthew feels his insecurities returning and starts to walk away, but he stops. He realizes this is his only chance to finally make a memory. So he pushes through the crowd, marches up to Danielle, and kisses her right in front of Hunter, forcing him to back off. The next morning, Matthew walks through school with new confidence. However, his friend Eli drags him into the media room to ruin the mood. He plays a video that reveals Danielle is actually a famous adult film star named Athena. Matthew is completely devastated, while Eli excitedly tries to convince him that there's still a way to make the best of the situation. He goes home and finds Danielle laughing with his mother while looking through his old baby pictures. He can't look at her the same way as his mind keeps replaying what he learned. Danielle notices and asks what's wrong, but Matthew follows Eli's terrible advice and starts acting cold. He speaks to her in a disrespectful, casual way, acting as if he doesn't really care about her. He takes her to a sleazy motel, and Danielle realizes he knows her past. Therefore, she decides to call his bluff. She begins a slow, provocative tease and coldly asks if this is what he expects from her. Matthew panics and asks her why she's acting this way, but the damage is done. Danielle is heartbroken that he judged her so quickly. She tells him she thought he was different, then dumps him on the spot and walks out. Matthew tries to return to his normal life, but he can't stop thinking about her. He goes to her house to apologize. However, he is blocked by a man named Kelly. Kelly is Danielle's ex-boyfriend and her producer, and he refuses to let Matthew have a private chat with her. Matthew follows Danielle and Kelly to a club. There, Kelly tries to convince Matthew to forget about her and date any girl from his school instead, but Matthew refuses. The next day, Kelly shows up at the high school. He tries to convince 3 girls from Matthew's school to date Matthew and his friends, but Hunter and his jock friends steal the women, leaving Matthew alone with Kelly. Kelly studies the scene and brags about a movie idea he has for a real-life school prom, which he believes would make millions. They leave the school, and Matthew allows Kelly to join him at the bank while he deposits the $25,000 he raised for the Cambodian scholarship. When they return to the house, Matthew realizes Kelly was only distracting him to give Danielle enough time to pack her bags for Las Vegas. Kelly convinced her that Matthew only sees her as a star, so she feels she has no choice but to return to the industry. Matthew watches helplessly as she leaves. Filled with guilt, Matthew convinces his friends to drive to Las Vegas to save her. They track Danielle to a large adult film convention, where she is performing on stage as Athena. Matthew pushes through the crowd and loudly confesses his feelings for her. However, this public declaration only humiliates her, so she rushes off stage to escape the embarrassment. Backstage, she runs into Hugo, a rival producer trying to poach her from Kelly. Kelly steps in to defend his property, forcing Hugo to back off. Matthew tries to intervene and tells Kelly that she is done with the industry, but Kelly drags him into a dark storeroom. He roughs Matthew up and warns him to stay away from his business. Meanwhile, Matthew's friends trick an aspiring actress into thinking they are famous directors offering to feature her in a movie. The girl is thrilled and tells her boyfriend, who insists on an interview right away. Eli begins the fake interview, but a bouncer who checked their IDs at the entrance exposes their lie to the boyfriend. The boyfriend attacks, and the boys are forced to run for their lives. Matthew realizes he can't win a physical fight against Kelly, so he tries a different approach. He interrupts them and slips Danielle the drawing she once made of herself. He tells her she is better than this life, then walks away to let her decide. On the morning of his big scholarship speech, Danielle walks into Matthew's room and offers him a ride. She thanks him for believing in her. Matthew seizes the moment and asks her to be his date for prom. Danielle has never been to prom, so she happily accepts. Later that day, Kelly storms into the school and drags Matthew to the parking lot. He is in a blind rage. When he spots some jocks sitting on his hood, he attacks them before barking at Matthew to get in. As they speed away, Kelly reveals that because Danielle quit, he lost $30,000. Matthew tries to be reasonable and offers to get a job to pay back the debt over time, but this only insults Kelly. He strikes Matthew and demands a faster solution. Matthew must break into Hugo's house and steal a golden statue to settle the debt. Matthew is terrified and in pain, so Kelly hands him a pill, claiming it is just aspirin to help him relax. Matthew swallows it, unaware of what is about to happen, and they drive to the secluded mansion. Matthew has no choice, so he breaks into Hugo's house. But as soon as he is inside, Kelly betrays him and calls the police to report a robbery. Matthew grabs the statue but is discovered by Hugo and then chased by Hugo's aggressive parrot, barely escaping just as the police arrive. Suddenly, the drug kicks in, and a disoriented Matthew meets up with his friends, who rush him to the scholarship award dinner. Danielle holds his hand and tells him to go with the flow and try not to talk too much, but Matthew makes a grand entrance. and it is immediately clear to everyone that something is wrong. When his name is called, he walks onto the stage and tosses his note cards aside. He then delivers a raw, emotional rant about Danielle. He explains that meeting her taught him the true meaning of moral character, that our actions have real consequences. The crowd is moved by his honesty and gives him a standing ovation. However, he doesn't win. The money goes to another student, someone who reminds Matthew exactly of the person he used to be. The next day, Matthew goes to the bank and discovers Kelly has stolen the entire $25,000 scholarship fund. Because Matthew previously introduced Kelly as his financial advisor, the bank allowed the transaction. Matthew wants to report the theft, but he realizes doing so would expose his connection to the adult industry and get him expelled. Therefore, he forces the cashier to stay silent by pointing out that her own friendliness with Kelly helped enable the fraud. Desperate to replace the money, Matthew turns to Danielle. They hatch a wild plan. They will steal Kelly's prom movie idea and film it themselves to sell to Hugo. Danielle recruits her industry friends, while Matthew puts Eli and Klitz in the director's chairs. On prom night, the actresses disguise themselves as dates to sneak in. The group enters the hall and instantly transforms from losers to the coolest people in the room. While Matthew and Danielle keep up appearances on the dance floor, the crew sneaks into an empty classroom to start filming. Hunter and his friend beg to be included, so Matthew recruits Hunter and tells the other guy the party is full. However, when the cameras roll, the tough bully freezes up. The shoot starts falling apart, so Matthew prepares to step in himself. But he looks at the lipstick mark on his hand and realizes he can't betray Danielle's trust. Just as all hope seems lost, Klitz steps up and saves the production with a legendary performance. The shoot is a massive success. On the ride home, Matthew and Danielle celebrate their victory in the back of the limo. However, the next morning, Eli calls in a panic. The master tape is gone. Matthew assumes it's a joke until he gets home to find a nightmare scenario. His parents, the principal, and Kelly are all sitting in his dining room with the tape. Kelly asks to speak with Matthew alone. He says the movie was his idea and demands half of the profits, or he will play the tape for the family right now. Remembering Danielle's advice to stand his ground, Matthew refuses to be bullied. He dares Kelly to press play, declaring he no longer cares about the consequences. Kelly plays the video. However, the footage is not adult content. It turns out the boys filmed a comprehensive, progressive sex education guide. The principal and his parents are impressed by its educational value, and Kelly is completely outsmarted. The video was an original idea they came up with during their long, boring sex education lessons at school. With no leverage left, Kelly admits defeat, strangely proud that he accidentally inspired a masterpiece. Hugo and Matthew sell the tape for millions, and Matthew creates a happy ending for everyone. He pays for Samnang to come to the US, covers his own tuition for Georgetown, and takes Danielle with him to Washington. Eli and Klitz also get their moment of success. Eli becomes a respected director, and Klitz's reputation stays intact because he wore a mask during the entire shoot, even though it meant no one knew the big personality was him. In the final scene, Matthew drives through the college gates in a sleek sports car. He didn't just get the grades, he got the girl, the money, and a high school experience he will never forget.